Hello boys and girls, ladies and gents, welcome to my very short movie about the completion of the amazing Tamiya Honda RC166 you see here. It's a kit that I don't own, it's something I've done as a favour for a friend, mainly because I think he wasn't going to be able to do it himself or didn't feel able to do it himself and needed a bit of help. I offered to do this for him, and what I have to confess to you now, I didn't quite know what I was letting myself in for. Primarily because, unbeknownst to me when I first suggested it, his good lady wife had brought him some wonderful, amazing upgraded parts, namely the wheels, which are true wheels that are in alloy with real spokes. You have to build them up just like a real wheel. And worst of all, we have the upgraded chain, which actually works. The chain set is a working chain, as you'll see in the other videos when I go into some detail zooming in. And on top of that we had all sorts of things like these additional studs and rivets that you can see here. They're all additional genuine articles that are turned alloy, chromed. Absolutely fantastic, you know, really impressive stuff. Oh, and not to forget the forks. It's got real working forks with a real suspension. And compared to the standard kit, which is a bit flimsy, I've seen other people have built it, and it's just quite flimsy plastic. This gives the kit some strength and some meatiness about it, which just makes it look right, really, and lends a great physical appearance as well. You'll see in my earlier videos on this, if you look back in the catalogue there, you'll see that I opened this box and am greeted with about 250,000 pieces, or that's what it felt like anyway. It was a lot of pieces, especially for the chain and the spokes and the wheels, and not really like model engineering. It was more like watchmaking. I've said this, you know, almost as a joke, but it actually was a bit like watchmaking, because there's some tiny screws, tiny the little spoke nipples, which the spokes are threaded through the wheel hub and then out and into the spoke nipples, and that is just, let's put it this way, I had to have new glasses. I show at the beginning video, lots of glasses, none of them were good enough. I had to get brand new ones from Zeiss, so we upgraded the glasses along the way. The kit itself, you know, going back to the beginning, I said about doing this for a friend, and one thing that didn't help was that we, of course, as normal, there's always some genius that's gone in the Tamiya model magazine and has already built one. Actually, the one in the photo is, I believe, built by Tamiya themselves. But in here we have all the beautiful colour photograph illustrations that come with the kit, and very, very excellent instructions. But true to form, somebody has come up with an absolute corking example. If I'm honest, I looked at this and thought, oh, there's just no way that I'm ever going to match that standard, because people don't. Marcus Nichols is the guy, he's quite well known, I think. He's done a beautiful job of it, no question. And this is the trouble with modelling. I always think, I'm a great modeller. In your mind you think, I'm fantastic at this. And then you go to the exhibitions at Telford and you realise that you're not that fantastic, really. And there's always somebody cleverer, better, more time, more imagination, more skill, etc. So all you can ever do is build something to the best of your ability. But I have to say, without any question whatsoever, this is the best model I've ever made. I think it's up there with the Mustang, and it's the second longest model I've ever made. It's taken me about 247 hours in total to build. And that includes all the painting and the processing, etc. But that's a long time, and the only time I've actually topped that was with my Tamiya P47 Mustang, which is also complicated in that it's the metallised version, so that brings in a whole load of new complications. But anyway, I'm going off the subject. Back to the motorbike. So this guy, Marcus Nichols, has done an absolutely stunning job, it has to be said. If I was to be hypercritical, and I did notice this, that he's used the recommended Tamiya paint, which we did have on the bench, but it's gone. And unfortunately it doesn't translate well when it's photographed zoomed up, and I felt that I would go for an alternative, so I actually used an L-clad grade. I think it was white aluminium from memory, which I think came out much nicer and is much more scale-like on the bike. Also Mr. Nichols here, who's done, I say, absolutely premium job, which is why it's in the magazine. But he did have, he did seem to want to weather his more than I thought was really appropriate. Anybody who knows Honda Mr. Parsons, who owns the bike, worked for Honda and he knows them better than anybody. Anybody who knows Honda will tell you that they don't send it out with oil dripping off the casing and etc in the condition that he's actually depicted it in the magazine, so it's not really criticism. It is as the bike might be found today if it has been locked away for a few years, but I don't think that's the way it would actually appeared. Dirty tyres and grime here and there. Great on other models, but I don't think it's appropriate for the Isle of Man TT unit from 1966. So I have produced it as Tamiya did actually in their own photos. I have done a little bit of weathering where it's appropriate around the brake areas and one or two highlightings, but I haven't gone to make it look like a barn find, because I don't think that's just not the way it would seem. Even the ones you see being run today are not in that condition. So we went with the more original 1966 look. It's Mike Halewood's bike. He won the TT in '66, of course, a 250 TT. And it's a wonderful machine actually. But anyway, back to the kit. So as you can see from the illustrations here, which are brilliant, there's a real complication here. And this guy actually, he did the chain and he did the wheels like me. But regrettably, he lost all his photography, so there's nothing to help me here, apart from the start of the wheels, and then it stops. So there's nothing about the chain in here at all to help me. So whilst I got one or two tips and bits of advice, which were quite helpful from this guy, which I thank him. Unfortunately, some of the most difficult parts he couldn't help me with because he lost the disc. I think he'd erased it or something. He was saying in the magazine. Anyway, he did a beautiful job. Enough of that. that means that no pressure. No pressure, but as Frank, who owns the bike, said, he said, "I'm sure you'll do it even better than that." And I was like, "What? Please, no!" And I say, when I open the box, and if you see the other video, you'll see this, and it's just the parts just keep on coming, and you just can't believe that they can be A, so many, but B, so small. And it's the size of these parts. I mean, look at the studs on the seats; they're only about 1 millimetre, and you know, you've got to use tweezers. And the critical thing with a model like this, my previous model to this was a Tiger tank. Excuse me. I can tell you, if you build a war tank, you can get away with mistakes, faults, laziness, you can cut corners, and it still looks realistic and genuine, and you can plaster things on and paint it in a way that is weathered and it's rugged and it's got bits and lumps taken out of it and shell holes. You cannot do that with this. This Honda will present this as a race during the 1960s in premium condition. Perfect. There are no shortcuts can be taken with this. There's no room for error whatsoever. A bit like a Formula 1 car model. It has to be perfect, and there's only one way of achieving perfection. Or achieving is a big word. I don't think anybody gets to perfection in the end. But I got as close as I have ever done with this. Much closer than with anything else. And the reason is I completely focused on it for days, weeks and months, and the only way you can do that is to completely shut yourself off. You know, I've been quite crotchety with my wife at times. She's walked in when I was doing some construction on the wheel build, I think it was, just at the wrong moment with a nice cup of tea or a nice glass of wine. I was like, get out, just because I was so focused on these tiny components. I mean, this was microsurgery, frankly, has got nothing on this. Look at the size we're talking about, you know. A human artery is about the size of the handlebars on this. We're talking about something about a quarter or a fifth that size of some of these components, so different world completely. Anyway, you start to build the engine, the gearbox, the clutch, which I actually annealed the plates to make them look realistic. Now it's a little bit unfortunate because some parts of the engine, most parts in fact, are covered up. But we were going to leave it open, and the only reason I put the cover on the fairing was because there's nowhere for the fairing to go, it won't stand up, but it's going to get damaged. So what we can do is that we have other photographs and videos of this along the way. Frank has all the photos, so he knows exactly what the engine looks like. And then you've got the instrumentation, but it's challenging. And anybody who's thinking of building this thinks they might be able to manage it. You've got to be 100% focused on this, 100%. It's going to be the biggest challenge you've ever done. Certainly the biggest challenge I've ever done. I can't think of anything else at all that will I will do better, or that will be any harder, really. Maybe a World War One biplane with all the stringing and tensioning wires, that would be perhaps a match for this. My brother-in-law's into that, he's very good at that, and he's got some wonderful kits. Yeah, that's probably the only thing that will come close to this level of challenge. But here we are. I wish everybody the season's greetings for Christmas and the New Year. This is how I spent most of my year's spare time, if I'm honest. Pretty much. So, did I enjoy it? I don't think I did. I only say that because two reasons. A, the level of challenge goes beyond anything to do with hobby or fun. It's pushing yourself, challenging yourself beyond what you think you can actually achieve. And secondly, because it's for somebody else, the pressure to not screw this thing up, for me anyway, it's probably self-imposed if I'm honest, but it made it twice as difficult. It made it, so critical to every step of the working through the kit and the instructions. You had to plan ahead, very meticulously plan. Read the instructions, read what the other guy did. Sometimes I did what he said, sometimes I did what they said, sometimes I took a completely different path because I knew that I needed to do it in sub-assemblies, and I did sub-assemble. I sub-assembled the engine, the forks, and then the wheels and the chain. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 45 different sub-assemblies, and then I brought it all together at the end, and that was the best way to do it. And the bodywork and the decaling was, of course, the very final stage, and that was probably the most critical because it's the most visible, it has the best finish, it's the bit that everybody sees, and you just can't get it wrong. You just can't get it wrong. Challenges. All modelers have a challenge or a slip up somewhere along the way, and I didn't actually slip up on this model, to my amazement, in the way I have normally done, because we all do it. When you've got something with that much work involved, you're going to make a mistake sooner or later. But the only mistake or real problem I had, apart from just the level of difficulty and the intensity, was the painting, and it was the painting of the fairing in that colour and the mudguard, because the paints and the paint I was using actually reacted with the undercoat, the primer that was used, quite badly. I mean, it was literally like fizzing like alien blood. So that was a bit of a problem. So in the end, I didn't put any top coat on it because the paint, the alclad paint, does not go well. I was trying to use a clear top coat from Humbrol. At least two things like oil and water. It was like something from a chemistry experiment at school. There was real reaction going on. So you would never know that now. I'm delighted with the results, and more importantly, I hope that the owner's going to be delighted. Frank, I think he'll love it. To be honest, I think it replicates the original bike exactly. Yeah, and I've seen videos of the bike. There's a couple of them that are on the circuit being used in these classic events, and there's lots of mods have been made to it actually since the original, so they don't actually look quite right. But going off the original photographs, and there's also a video of Honda building and stripping one, which is really interesting. But I think he will instantly recognise it as being the authentic replica of the bike, right down to its chassis number on the side, and it's quite something. When you see the suspension move, you see the chain move. It's that goes beyond models that I've ever done before. It's not really just a kit. It is a piece of engineering, really. But that's not to blow my trumpet. Tamiya have engineered an absolute masterpiece. Moulding technology, the aftermarket parts they supplied, the precision of it. The only real problem I had was that one of the instructions shows the wheel actually. They actually repeat the wheel assembly instructions, when in actual fact they should be reversed because the front and rear are not the same as the directions that they have to go in the hub. I'll go into too much detail here, but there is a small mistake in the instructions, and it's only when you just think this is not physically possible after several attempts and you know it's wrong, and then you realise I mustn't force any parts because it'll break them. It was the spokes, they were bending, and I just thought this is completely the wrong angle. So I realised there was an error, which is very rare for Tamiya, it's got to be said. But this was not in the main kit instructions, but in the wheel instructions that come separate. So somebody probably didn't proofread it properly or check it. But the parts, the engineering of the parts was absolutely amazing. And the worst thing of all, I think, that really scared me making this, was these little studs that you see on the seat and around the fairing, which are chromed aluminium. They are so small and so hard to hold that I think I dropped 2 or possibly 3 of them. Maybe it's one of the spoke nickels, but there's 3 of these parts that I've still never found today. Luckily, they supply you with about half a dozen, maybe 8 spares, and it's a good job. They must realise that people are going to drop these, you know. And I ended up using tweezers and blue tack. I'll friend the blue tack here on the end of the tweezers because it just gives that grip and it stops it dropping. If you misangle it, it doesn't just fall. And that was the only way to do it, really. So, excuse me. I would say to modelers that are interested in this model, I'd say yes, buy it. It's absolutely phenomenal. Superb quality, beautiful box, great instructions, so clear and so well thought out, so well engineered, and very true to the real bike. But I would warn you, don't undertake this unless, especially with the extra parts, the forks, the wheels, and the chain. Do not consider those parts. Or indeed the kit, unless you really want to build it and you have got real skill. You need to have 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 skills to get to this. And that's not me blowing my own trumpet. I don't think I had that skill when I started. I think it developed as I went along. So I've got to be honest now, I think every other kit that I do will be an anticlimax, and you can see on my board here, well, I'm on the Sherman Firefly, and it's almost like a child's toy, this, by comparison with the motorbike, because there's just no comparison in quality. I've got some nice other kits coming up. I've got my Messerschmitt 163 Comet to come. Looking forward to that, and that's got delayed really because of this, so by almost a year. So there we go. It's mission accomplished, but I think it's fantastic. I'm really pleased with it. I just hope he is. I hope the owner likes it and understands just what's gone into it, really. Because I don't think I can repeat that ever again. I don't think I'll ever do a commission for somebody else ever again, and it's just too much stress. And I had a new job this year, so I had to take all that on and do a lot of travelling, and so it's been fitted in around my travelling. So when I wasn't travelling, I was basically building this. That's been my year, but in the end, when you see the finished product, it's very satisfying, you know. Anyway, there we go. Thank you for listening to me ramble on. You'll see the other videos with close-ups so you can see more detail. If you want to go and get this kit, I would certainly say if you're prepared to put the effort and you have the skill to do it, you know, it's what Revel would call a level 5. I think that actually Revel's level 5 doesn't actually say it, it's level 8, 9, 10. And I don't think they go that high. But Tamiya's products are just amazing, I think. They've just come out with another couple since this one. And they've obviously got the Tomcat from last year. They're now bringing out a new Messerschmitt ME109 G6, I think it is, and that has been, it's only small. It's not up to this level of cost or quality, but the engineering is just amazing. All sorts of new ideas about how to build it in unitary form and then bring it together at the end, and gives a fantastic result. So there's lots of new products they're bringing out. I think they're the best manufacturer of kits out there. Edouard's up there with them, I think, of course, and there's others. But overall, I don't think anybody touches this. Just wish they'd make the decals a little bit more compliant, perhaps a bit thinner. Because on this model it wasn't a problem really, but on other models, you know, military aircraft and things like that, their decals are just too thick and they're very rigid and they don't conform well. It doesn't matter when you've got a smooth motorbike fairing, you know. In fact, I've actually put some creases deliberately into the roundel with the number 16 for my helmet on, because I thought that if you just stick it on a plane, it didn't look right somehow. It looked a bit like a toy. So the real ones I noticed had always have creasing in the vinyl, so I incorporated a bit of that deliberately. I was quite pleased about it. But the decals on this are absolutely no problem at all because of the smooth surface it's going onto. But yeah, that's the one area they could improve in. But anyway, not here to criticise them. Overall, 10 out of 10 for the kit quality. And I think, to be honest, the thing I need most now is a nice Christmas drink and a snooze. And I'm not sure when I'll be picking up the Meng next model, which is a Messerschmitt Comet Rocket Fighter. I think I might have a couple of days off before I do that. I think I've earned it, if I'm honest. Anyway, there we go. Enough of me rambling on. I hope you enjoyed the video, hope you like the model when you see it, and I wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. All the best. Cheers.